Kimberley is both a beautiful and treacherous place with support services few and far between. If you have a vehicle breakdown out here on property at El Questro or anywhere in the Kimberley for that matter, please make sure that you stay with your car. This is absolutely vital in our search and rescue procedures when coming to find you. It is an incredibly hot and unforgiving climate out here. It is much easier to locate you when you're with a big shiny object in the bush than just yourself alone in the scrub out here. At the start of each trailhead and at reception we have boards giving you a lot of information about each hike. Please refer to these to determine your own fitness and capabilities in order to complete the hike safely out here at El Questro. To ensure your safety at all hikes here at El Questro, please make sure that you're really conscious of the time of day that you're leaving for the hikes. You don't want to be caught out up these gorges in the middle of the day without adequate water and fully exposed to the sun. Please be aware of the signs of heat stress out here. Make sure your water intake is adequate and you're wearing a hat through these gorges. Please keep at the back of your mind just how remote you are out here. Be aware of any wildlife on the path. If you do see anything like freshwater crocodiles or snakes, please do not approach them under any circumstances. Up all of the gorges here at El Questro, we don't encounter saltwater crocodiles. However, there definitely are freshwater crocodiles and snakes in almost every swimming hole here. These animals generally won't react unless interfered with. Please be aware that here at El Questro and through the Kimberley, it is saltwater croc country. We have the Pentecost, Chamberlain and King River here, which are all hazards with saltwater crocs. So please don't swim in any areas here at El Questro that aren't allocated swimming spots. When hiking up any of the gorges here at El Questro, you'll notice blue markers and pink tape through the gorges. This marks a track, so make sure you've got a line of sight of one of these pink or blue markers at all times. Emma Gorge is one of the Kimberley's most well-known and spectacular gorges. Up Emma Gorge, it's about 3.2k return to the top pool. Treat yourself to a lovely swim and you'll be able to return back down to the bottom in about 3 hours. It's really exposed through Emma Gorge, so we do recommend taking at least 2 litres of water. Try and do it as early as you can in the day, because those rocks down the first section heat up pretty quickly. So as you're coming back down, you don't want to be too exposed in the sun there. Wear appropriate hats, long shirts if needed, definitely appropriate footwear. There are some bigger rocks to negotiate, and there's also a slightly uphill section from Turquoise Pool. There's thermal waters which trickle from the right side of the top pool up there. Generally towards the end of the season, the waterfall does kind of dry up to a trickle a little bit, but it is usually flowing all year round to some extent. Zebedee Springs is one of our easier locations to access. It is a pretty smoothed out path. There's a couple of boardwalks over the more compromising sections. It's an absolutely beautiful oasis through there. The pools are thermal springs, quite rocky, can be a little bit slippery, so just be really careful with your footing through that area. To get into Zebedee Springs, it's a really smooth path, about 300 metres long. Can take you anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes, depending on how many times you stop to take some beautiful photos of the palm trees through there. It is about a grade 1, so it is really accessible for the whole family. Zebedee Springs is open from 7 a.m. in the morning till midday to the public. This is mainly to preserve the beautiful ecosystem through there and give it a bit of a rest during times of the day to recuperate, so we can keep enjoying it for the years to come. El Questro Gorge is an absolutely stunning hike. The bottom section of it walks through massive Livistona palms with a beautiful Wanarman Millawandi sandstone in the background. Above halfway pool, it's definitely a grade 5. To initially get up there, you'll have to wade through the water I generally hold my backpack above my head and then shimmy up the wall on the left-hand side. You'll need to get up over that rock that you see wedged in that left-hand corner. If you find this tricky or you're a bit unsure of your abilities getting up that section, it'll give you a good idea of what's to come for the next 2/3 of the gorge. If you're finding that section getting up halfway pool tricky at all, you'll probably find the next section up to McMicking really tricky to navigate around. It's definitely important on this hike to take adequate water. We have found in this very specific location death adder snakes. Now these are ambush predators. They blend in very well with the rocks, so watch your footing the entire way up. There are a couple of sections between Halfway Pool and McMicking Pool in that top half there where you're having to navigate sheer rock faces and vertical rock faces, and it can be quite daunting for some people if you're not prepared. You definitely will have earned your swim up in McMicking Pool. It's absolutely stunning for everyone. It does flow year round all the way through Questro Gorge, so that gorge won't dry up at any point. It is spring fed through a lot of sections upstream, so you'll have constant flow of water. The total length to get to McMicking Pool is roughly about 6.8 kilometres return to the bottom of the gorge. If you're only wanting to go to Halfway Pool, it's about 2.6 kilometres return. You'll need to allocate about 3 hours to get to Halfway Pool and about 5 hours to get to McMicking. In the dry season, Amalia Gorge is a stunning walk through a rocky valley surrounded by wildflowers and beautiful foliage. Amalia is a grade 5, about 3.4 kilometres return, and will take about 3 hours total. We definitely recommend doing this one first thing in the morning, trying to be back out of that gorge by about midday. It gets really hot and exposed through the bottom section of that gorge in the old riverbed there. Amalia Gorge is best walked early season. It's not spring fed, so the waterfall will start to dry up during the late dry season, and the pools can become somewhat stagnant and algae filled, so may not be suitable for swimming at some points during the late season as well. After Halfway Pool, it does get trickier at Amalia Gorge. There's narrow ledges and some climbing sections. It does get quite exposed. Make sure you're taking ample water, as you will not be able to fill up from most sections of the stream through this gorge as it's not spring fed. Champagne Springs is a grade 5 walk here at Questro. It's 9.6 kilometres return, and you need to allocate about 5 to 6 hours, including a small swim up the top. The top section of Champagne is absolutely beautiful, surrounded by stunning scenery and cascading waterfalls. For the most part of this walk, there is absolutely no shade. It's really exposed rock face. You need to absolutely take adequate water. If you're planning on doing Champagne Springs hike while here at Questro, we recommend leaving at first light. Hiking up to the top pools of Champagne Springs, you'll notice roughly halfway a massive boab. It's on the right hand side and it's almost impossible to miss. We call this one the halfway boab. Up from there it gets really tricky and even more exposed in the second half than you would have experienced before the halfway boab. We recommend taking an absolute minimum of 4 litres water return for this hike. For the most part of this walk there is absolutely no shade. Up at the top pools as well, keep in mind it's all incredibly exposed. While Champagne is one of our longer walks here at Questro, the scenery coming up to the top pools changes dramatically, and you're absolutely rewarded once you get there with a beautiful swim in the bubbling springs. Moonshine Gorge is one of our more remote walks here at Questro. It's definitely more of a bush track. It's not as manicured as the other tracks. The Moonshine Gorge hike is a grade 4. It'll take you around 3 hours and it's 5 kilometres in length. It is a circular track which follows Moonshine Creek. If you're doing the circular track clockwise, you want to keep that central mountain range on your right hand shoulder. If you're doing it anti-clockwise, you want to keep that central mountain range on your left-hand shoulder. There is a critical turning point, so make sure you don't miss it. As long as you're following the pink tape along that track, you'll be fine. A decent portion of the Moonshine track offers little shade. We recommend taking minimum 4 litres water for this hike. Sections of the trail lead along a riverbed with a creek crossing, and half of this track offers very little shade. To get into Moonshine Gorge and Questro Gorge, you will need to go through a deep water crossing. For this crossing, snorkels are absolutely essential. It can be anywhere between 0.7 and 0.9 of a metre. The bottom is dug out through the season with car erosion, so it can get deeper at any point. We recommend taking caution through this crossing, making sure you're going at an incredibly slow pace to preserve the ecosystem around it and stop further erosion through that crossing.